Okay, so Tammy says that she was trying to get pregnant with Sydney back in November of 2013. Remember, Heather Elvis went missing in December of 2013. Timeline makes sense, but does this make sense? Let's bring in our very special guest to talk about all of this coverage that we have today, Law and Crime trial analyst Jonna Spilbor. Jonna, great to see you. Happy Monday.
Good morning. Happy Monday, Jesse.
Let's start with the pregnancy. This is important for the defense to get under, right? I mean, is this a good place to start?
Well, I mean, the defense has to give the jury something, right? Because at this point in the trial, it sort of looks bad for the defendant here. But now they're going to try to explain away some of the motive. That's what this case is built on, Jesse. This case is all about the motive. But motive is not an element of any offense ever. So they're going to try to chip away at this, and this is one thing that they're doing in that endeavor.
And we can't forget that her testimony came after Deborah James took the stand, who's a medical records expert, and she talked to confirming that Tammy was in fact pregnant. Take a look at that testimony. Okay, so Tammy apparently lost this baby. I'm back here with Jonna Spilbor. Jonna, is it not just the idea, hey, we can explain away why Sydney Moore was buying this pregnancy test, but let's generate some sympathy for Tammy Moore in this case as well?
Yeah, I think that's what the defense is going for. I don't know how successful they are going to be at it, especially when you listen to the testimony on cross-examination of her. And plus, look at it this way, Jesse. I mean, this does not, whether or not Tammy Moore was pregnant and then, you know, unfortunately miscarried, is only one step in the process of getting to whether or not she's guilty in this crime, right? It's not the be-all, end-all. This is not a Perry Mason moment here. It's just trying to chip away at the potential motive.
Well, why wouldn't people have sympathy for her? I mean, if you look at the facts of the case, right? I mean, we obviously read all the articles and we know a lot more, but based upon the evidence the prosecution has put forward, what have they presented that she had anything to do with the disappearance of Heather Elvis?
Well, remember this, even though it was sort of ancillary, we got a taste of Tammy Moore's personality when they brought in text messages between her and another person who doesn't have anything to do with this. So we have that information about her. She didn't come across as the sweetest, you know, some sort of innocent victim here.
The flip side of that is if she found out that her husband's having an affair, who would be nice about the alleged omissions?
Right, but she's also claiming that she did know that they had this kind of open marriage and that it was somehow it didn't upset her, or apparently, which I think is a lie. And here's the other thing, Jesse. Like right now, when she's testifying, even though there's proof because they brought in somebody from the hospital to verify the records, I'm sitting here wondering, did she, if it were a urine test, did she bring somebody else's urine with her?
Oh, wow.
I'm thinking that way, even though I have no reason to think that way. Well, this because I'm an attorney and I always think that way. But other people in the jury could be thinking the same thing.
Do you think it was necessary for her to come on the stand?
You know, that is a great question. And I'm going to say no, because we have so little actual evidence connecting these dots in this case, and it is all about the motive. She probably could have sat back, and the jury may not have enough either to come to a verdict or to convict her.
Well, you know, maybe she felt that she needed to tell her side of the story after the prosecution has been painting her one way. And we're going to see more of it when she takes the stand again today. But before we do that, I want to let all of our viewers know that there is going to be a special that we'll have here on Law and Crime in the early afternoon, hosted by our very own Aaron Keller. As you know, Making a Murderer Season 2 is available on Netflix. Aaron was one of the stars of Season 1, and he has some analysis about what has been happening so far in this case and what has been going on in the second season of Making a Murderer. So here's a special preview of what is going to be there later today. We had a preview. Just know that Aaron will be talking about a special later on today, and so you're not going to want to miss that here on the network. It's at 1:30 Eastern Standard Time, and again, check it out. It's with Aaron Keller. So we are going to take a quick break on our end, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about Tammy Moore. Okay, we're learning a little bit more about the defendant here when she took the stand. Now, Jonna, what did you think of her phone call with Heather Elvis, her accusation that the police were maybe a little too aggressive? What did you think?
I'm sitting here saying to myself, the jury is not going to believe her. And here's why, Jesse. I don't know if there's a woman alive who can honestly say, who's not acting on a witness stand, that, oh, you know what? My husband's lover great girl. So nice. Yeah, we're going to go have coffee after. Like, it just doesn't happen that way. Now, I know in the opening statements, her attorneys basically told the jury that they had an open marriage, and that's why she was not bothered by the affair. But they need to cull that a little bit more for the jury to believe that this woman is doing something other than flat-out acting for the jury.
Okay, well, we're going to have to see what she does ultimately today. But let's play a little bit more testimony. And this, I believe, is when they start talking about what was found in this camper. Pay attention. Take a look. Yeah. Okay, so Jonna, what she's basically saying is this cement, this cleaner, it's not used for nefarious purposes to get rid of a body and clean a crime scene. It's just used for what it's used.
And that's her excuse. And now the jury's going to have to weigh that. I mean, if you walk into my apartment right now, Jesse, I have garbage bags, I have zip ties, I have bleach. I haven't killed anybody. So she's trying to make a point that they were used for an innocent purpose.
And yet, Heather Elvis has been missing since 2013, and there has been no trace evidence of what happened to her. That's what makes this so unbelievably eerie and sad. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Let's break down the testimony right now because there's a lot to talk about. Back here with Law and Crime trial analyst Jonna Spilbor. Let's start with the materials, the cleaning supplies and the cement. Did the defense make a compelling argument that those materials had nothing to do with Heather Elvis's disappearance?
You know, it's not so much making a compelling argument. What she needed to do and what she's trying to do right now is get the jury to believe her. This is coming down to credibility, Jesse, because if the jury believes that she used these items for innocent purposes, we all have these items in and around our house, we use them for innocent purposes. If they believe her, then that's a point in her column. If they don't believe her, then they don't believe her, and that's going to be a point for the prosecution.
Okay, talking about believing her, is it believable that she finds out about her husband's affair, and 72 hours later she just drops it and goes on this trip with her husband and the kids?
No. So listen, this really has me, I am picking this apart. In opening statement, her attorneys basically told the jury that they were going to hear evidence that these two had an open marriage. Therefore, there was no reason for her to be upset. Listening to her being directly examined by her own attorney is contradicting that, because he's saying, oh, so you found out about the infidelity. Well, if they have an open marriage, then it's not really an infidelity, is it? And that she was angry, but that the trip was to be therapeutic. So what is it? Did she have an open marriage and this was hunky-dory, or did she not have an open marriage and this was not okay? Her attorney is not doing her any favors right now.
So that's a funny you should say that, because people have been wondering why she took the stand and whether it actually helps her case. Do you think the prosecution is sitting back and being like, our job is being done for us right now?
You don't hear them objecting overly much, except when her attorney's asking leading questions on direct exam. So, yeah, I think there's no reason for the prosecution to be jumping up, because she's feeding the jury everything that they need to make this either a credibility contest or not.
Do you think she was too forthcoming with information? She was too eager to testify and give her story? Can that backfire?
Yes, it can backfire, because a jury can read that as somebody who is A, very well rehearsed, and that's not what you want. You want to come across as, you want to be honest and come across as such. So, yeah, I don't think this is helping. Her overly testifying isn't helping her.
Well, here's the deal. We have a live feed in that courtroom right now. Nothing's happening yet, but as soon as trial begins, and soon as Tammy Moore is back on that stand, we're going to go live. But when we come back from our short break, if it's not live, we have a lot more Tammy Moore testimony to play for you. So stay tuned here on Law and Crime. All right, she's back on the stand, folks. Back here with Jonna Spilbor to talk about it. What do you think about how she's doing so far?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure where the prosecution is going with this, but it's a new day, and she's got a little bit of a new attitude, so that's good.
Well, she was a little combative with the prosecutor on Friday. We'll see if that continues today. We'll take a quick break, but when we come back, we are going to be live in that South Carolina courtroom. You don't want to miss anything from this explosive trial. Stay tuned here on Law and Crime. Wow, this is incredible. Really incredible stuff to watch right now. I'm here with Jonna Spilbor. Jonna, what do you think about the back and forth between the defendant and the prosecutor right now?
I think the prosecutor is a pretty smart cookie, because I think she knows that if she presses and presses and presses, she's going to get a reaction out of Tammy Moore that the jury probably won't embrace.
I mean, she asked her, are you familiar with how a clock works? Because that 10-minute time span, she's saying, Do you really expect us to believe you buy this pregnancy test, 10 minutes later, someone from the payphone across the street calls Heather Elvis? It just doesn't make sense.
But Tammy Moore's a little bit unshakable in that she's swearing on Bibles and she is just not moving off her point. She's going to deny, deny, deny.
All right, we have to take a quick break, but when we come back, you know where we're going to be. We're going to be live in that courtroom. Let's go. All right, let's keep recapping where we are. Jonna, how is she doing now on this second round of questioning?
Well, she's trying to behave herself as a witness, but I got to tell you, she is almost like a mountain. Like, you know, the prosecution is trying to bring in evidence that just logical evidence, like how many minutes after you left the Walmart did this payphone dial Heather Elvis's number? And she just won't budge. Like, wasn't me, won't budge. And she's very bullish that way.
It almost seems like she's doing a closing argument for herself. She's like, well, that's not what the evidence supports. That wouldn't show that way.
Right.
And she's taking the argumentative position in this cross-examination.
And she's almost trying to be her own expert because the prosecution is showing her apparently a Facebook page that's time-stamped for the post. And instead of just saying yes, no, maybe, she's trying to explain why those times can be different as if she's some sort of forensic expert.
Well, this is something to watch, I'll tell you that much. Now, I know we have to take a quick break, and we're going to do that. And when we come back, we will be live in the Tammy Moore courtroom. Okay, let's just ask the question that I think we've all been wanting to ask, and I'm going to ask it of Jonna Spilbor. Should she have taken the stand?
Clearly, no.
Why do you say that?
Well, I don't think she's doing herself any favors. Look, you can deny something and deny and deny. That doesn't mean you're convincing a jury to believe you. And can I just make one other quick point? Now, remember, her husband's trial for the same charge ended in a mistrial.
Right.
This jury's not going to know that, but we know that. I don't know whether he took the stand, but I'm going to guess he didn't. And I am not sure why she either insisted on taking the stand or her attorneys didn't say, you don't need to, we got this.
Well, usually when a defendant takes the stand, they add something for the jury to consider that may help acquit. Yeah. I'm not sure that's the same situation here. We're going to take a quick break, though, and when we come back, we're going to be live with more Tammy Moore. I think we're all a little sad that that cross-examination is done because we learned a lot about the defendant, and this was very entertaining to watch. Back here with Law&Crime trial analyst Jonna Spilbor to help break it down. So the last part, let's start there. The idea of that you can change the date and time of Facebook posts, and the idea that maybe she was on Facebook and active, which would document, you know, in the early morning hours of Heather Elvis's disappearance, and maybe she was, you know, manipulating the times to show, hey, this is my alibi, I was doing this. Is there any value to that? Because I didn't know you could change Facebook posts.
Well, I didn't know you could do that either. I have a problem with this, though, and the viewers have to forgive me because I don't know if what the prosecution was showing was a screenshot from Tammy's actual computer or if she was just providing general information that we could Google right now. How do you change a Facebook post time? Because if it's the latter, Jesse, it should never have been allowed in. It should never, because unless Mark Zuckerberg is going to take the stand and say, we analyzed this user's computer, and yes, she did in fact change the time of her Facebook post, then it's prejudicial.
Do you think the defense didn't object enough during these cross-examination?
I think probably because I think it was the defense's idea to bring this in. Hey, what do you have to show us that you were home and not kidnapping and murdering somebody?
I mean, in general, do you think, like, what do you think's going through their minds right now as they are going to probably go under redirect?
There's not a whole lot of objecting that they did, which they should have done. I agree with you, because this prosecutor was able to ask the same question 1,000,000 times without objection, and that's never good.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back live into the courtroom, and this is redirect in the Tammy Moore case. Okay, I want to get the comments of the reaction to this of Jonna Spilbor before we have to sign you off. What do you think now the defense has to do?
All right. She just cleared up my question. My question was, was there proof that she had changed the actual times, or was it just general, Googleable stuff? Googleable, my word. And she said it didn't come from my computer. So this was really inappropriate, I think, for the prosecution to try to bring that in without connecting those dots.
Yeah, I wonder how frustrated they are about her taking the stand and maybe what she said under cross-examination, but we'll have to see. Jonna, thank you so much for coming on this morning. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Jesse.
All right, everybody, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be live back in this South Carolina courtroom. and you do not want to miss any of this. We'll be right back right after this.